Hello and welcome back to Koko Sleep, a podcast of original children's bedtime stories and meditations designed to make bedtime a dream. If you've been listening lately, you may recall the lovely tale about Bluebell, the kid who couldn't sleep. Well, the little goat eventually manages to drift off after going for a nocturnal wander around the farmyard, where she eventually meets her sheepdog friend Shep, who tells her his secret to sleep, which is to count his sheep. Well, tonight we're going to meet 7 of those sleepy sheep, but the problem is they just cannot fall asleep. So what do they do? Let's find out in just a minute, after I've said some very special hellos to our brand new Koko Clubbers. Hello, Riola, and Addison, or Addie for short, Elodie in Quebec, brothers Jacob and Leo, Callum and Braden, also brothers, Alice, brothers Oliver and Michael from Michigan, Logan, and sisters Lottie and Alice. Hi guys, I hope you love the extra stories and thank you so much for your lovely letters, for all your story ideas, and of course, for joining the club. Okay, now let's all hop into bed and lie back under the covers. Take a lovely breath in for 2 through your nose and breathe out for 4 through your mouth. Close your eyes if they aren't already, and let's do that again. In for 2 and out for 4. In, 1, 2, and out, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you're all relaxed and you're comfy in bed. We'll go and join the 7 sleepy sheep now and hear about the friendly animals they meet who help them to find the perfect place to rest for the night. This is 7 Sleepy Sheep by Gillian Rogerson. In a cosy corner of a farmyard, 7 sheep were having trouble falling asleep. They shifted this way and that way in their soft beds, but they just could not drift off to sleep. The biggest sheep sat up in his bed and suggested they go for a walk through the countryside and find somewhere else to sleep that night. The other sheep said that was a great idea. They pushed back their bed covers and got out of their soft beds. They had a little stretch and a little yawn. They were very tired, but looking forward to finding somewhere else to sleep that night. They left their cosy corner of the farm and set out on their moonlit walk through the beautiful countryside. 7 sleepy sheep, wandering through the night, looking for a place to sleep beneath the soft moonlight. Onwards they walked. They heard the soft breeze whispering through the leaves. A friendly owl hooted gently from a nearby treetop. A family of crickets chirped cheerfully as they travelled through the long, swaying grass. The twilight tunes mingled together smoothly and created a soothing lullaby. The 7 sleepy sheep let out 7 sleepy yawns and continued on their journey through the beautiful countryside. Soon, they met a family of field mice walking towards them. The mice said hello to the sheep and asked where they were going. The biggest sheep told the mice they were looking for somewhere new to sleep that night. The father mouse said he was taking his family into the next field, where rolls of soft haystacks were lined up. The haystacks were ever so comfy to sleep on, and the mice always fell asleep within minutes of snuggling into the soft straw. He invited the 7 sleepy sheep to join them. The 7 sleepy sheep said thank you and followed the friendly mice into a field. Oblong-shaped haystacks were lined up in neat rows from one end of the field to the other. Moonbeams shone over the straw, giving it a soft, golden glow. The mouse family stopped in front of the nearest haystack and climbed up it. They settled down on the soft straw and looked down at the 7 sleepy sheep. The mice said they should find a comfy haystack too, and there were many to choose from. The 7 sheep had never fallen asleep on a haystack before, but they were willing to give it a go. They each found a haystack and climbed onto it. They snuggled down on the straw and closed their eyes. The mice family fell asleep, cosy and snug on the hay. Moments later, one sleepy sheep fell into a restful slumber with a peaceful smile on her face. The other sheep thought the haystack was a lovely place to sleep, but decided it wasn't quite right for them. They agreed to continue looking for somewhere else. 6 sheep quietly climbed down from their haystacks, careful not to disturb their sleeping friend and the mouse family. 6 sleepy sheep, wandering through the night, looking for a place to sleep beneath the soft moonlight. The night air was scented with wildflowers and lavender. Trees rustled gently, and quiet snores came from many directions. The 6 sleepy sheep let out 6 sleepy yawns and continued on their way through the beautiful countryside. Soon, they met a friendly cow who was strolling through the fields. She mooed hello and asked where they were going. The biggest sheep said they were looking for somewhere new to sleep that night. The cow suggested they try sleeping in her barn. She had made it very comfy with lots of soft blankets that a kind farmer had given her. The cow said the barn was a short walk away. The sheep thanked the kind cow and walked with her through the moonlit field and towards a barn. The cow led them inside the barn and over to an area at the back, which was covered in soft pastel-coloured blankets. It looked like the perfect place for the tired sheep to sleep. The cow had a good stretch and settled down on the blankets. Her eyes blinked tiredly. She told the sheep there was plenty of room for them, and she hoped they didn't mind if she snored. The sheep said they didn't mind at all, because they would probably snore too. The 6 sleepy sheep settled down on the soft blankets and sighed happily. The barn was cosy and warm, and through the open door they saw the star-filled sky. The cow fell asleep, and her gentle snores echoed through the barn like a mesmerizing melody. Moments later, one sleepy sheep fell into a restful slumber with a peaceful smile on his face. The other sheep thought the haystack was a lovely place to sleep, but decided it wasn't quite right for them. They agreed to continue looking for somewhere else. 5 sleepy sheep quietly stood up and tiptoed out of the barn, careful not to disturb their sleeping friend and the cow. 5 sleepy sheep, wandering through the night, looking for a place to sleep beneath the soft moonlight. The twilight melody of the countryside drifted around the sheep in a comforting lullaby as they walked along. The 5 sleepy sheep let out 5 sleepy yawns and continued on their way. Soon they met a squirrel scampering through the grass carrying an armful of tasty hazelnuts. He said hello to the sheep and asked where they were going. The biggest sheep said they were looking for somewhere new to sleep that night. The squirrel said he knew the perfect place for them. It was somewhere he slept often. He nodded in the direction of a majestic oak tree. The sheep knew that squirrels lived in trees and said thank you kindly to their new friend, but they didn't think they'd be able to climb the tree. The squirrel smiled gently at the sheep and said he was going to sleep on the soft grass at the bottom of the tree so that he could listen to the leaves fluttering in the evening breeze. He told them that the grass at the bottom of the tree was ever so soft and smelled of sunshine. The 5 sleepy sheep liked the sound of that and followed the squirrel over to the tree. The squirrel placed the hazelnuts next to the tree trunk in case anyone needed a snack during the night. Then he laid down on his back in the soft grass and smiled softly as he gazed up through the gently fluttering leaves. His little eyes began to close. The sheep settled down on their backs too and looked at the leaves. They listened to the soothing sound they made as they performed their leafy moonlit dance. The squirrel fell asleep. Moments later, one sleepy sheep fell into a restful slumber with a peaceful smile on her face. The other sheep thought the grass beneath the oak tree was a delightful place to sleep, but decided it wasn't quite right for them. They agreed to continue looking for somewhere else. 4 sleepy sheep rose quietly from the soft grass, careful not to disturb their sleeping friend and the squirrel. 4 sleepy sheep, wandering through the night, looking for a place to sleep beneath the soft moonlight. The evening breeze gently rippled through their fur and caressed their softly smiling faces. The 4 sleepy sheep let out 4 sleepy yawns and continued on their way through the beautiful countryside. Soon they met a couple of hedgehogs shuffling through the grass. The hedgehogs stopped to say hello and asked the sheep where they were going. The biggest sheep said they were looking for somewhere new to sleep that night. The hedgehogs said they loved sleeping in the hedgerows and suggested the sheep try that too. The sheep were concerned they were too big for the hedgerows, to which the thoughtful hedgehogs said they would take the sheep to a field that had larger hedgerows, ones that the sheep could easily snuggle into. The 4 sleepy sheep walked with the hedgehogs across a field that was lined with tall hedgerows. There were many large gaps in the leafy bushes, and the 4 sheep soon found the perfect areas to settle down in. They thought it was very cosy, lying beneath the leaves and listening to the owls hooting from the trees. The hedgehogs found some gaps in the bushes too, and made themselves comfortable and snug. They said goodbye to the sheep and quickly fell asleep. Moments later, one sleepy sheep fell into a restful slumber with a peaceful smile on his face. The other sheep thought the hedgerows were ever so snug and cosy, but decided it wasn't quite right for them. They agreed to continue looking for somewhere else to sleep. 3 sleepy sheep moved away from the hedgerows, careful not to disturb their sleeping friend and the hedgehogs. 3 sleepy sheep, wandering through the night, looking for a place to sleep beneath the soft moonlight. The moon shone down brightly across the fields, and the wind rippled softly through the tall grass. The 3 sleepy sheep let out 3 sleepy yawns and continued on their way through the beautiful countryside. Soon they met a cheerful frog leaping through the grass. The frog stopped to say hello and asked the sheep where they were going. The biggest sheep said they were looking for somewhere new to sleep that night. The frog leapt closer to them and said she loved falling asleep on the riverbank. The gentle sound of the river tumbling over rocks and lapping against the riverbank was very soothing, and it always lulled her to sleep. She suggested the 3 sheep go with her to the riverbank and try the area for themselves. The 3 sleepy sheep thought the riverbank sounded like a lovely place to sleep, so they went with the frog through the field and over to the gently flowing river. The sound of moving water gently filled the night air, creating an atmosphere of peace and tranquility. The frog found a soft spot in the grass on the riverbank and laid herself down. She sighed softly and looked up at the night sky. The 3 sleepy sheep settled down next to the frog. They sighed softly and gazed at the night sky too. The peaceful sound of the flowing river made the sheep feel so very relaxed and sleepy. They closed their eyes and got ready to fall asleep. The frog closed her tired eyes and fell asleep. Moments later, one sleepy sheep fell into a restful slumber with a peaceful smile on her face. The other sheep thought the riverbank was a peaceful place to be, but decided it wasn't quite right for them. They agreed to continue looking for somewhere else to sleep. 2 sleepy sheep stood up and moved away from the riverbank, careful not to disturb their sleeping friend and the frog. 2 sleepy sheep, wandering through the night, looking for a place to sleep beneath the soft moonlight. The stars glimmered and shimmered in the velvety night sky, and the full moon shone brightly. 2 sleepy sheep let out 2 sleepy yawns and continued on their way through the beautiful countryside. Soon they met a nightingale perched on a wooden gate. She waved hello with her wing and asked why the sheep were out so late and where they were going. The biggest sheep tried to give his usual answer, but as soon as he opened his mouth, he began to yawn over and over again. His friend answered the bird instead and explained how they were looking for somewhere new to sleep that night. The nightingale wisely said, "Perhaps it's not where you sleep, but how you fall asleep. I have found that I can fall asleep anywhere at all if I first take the time to calm my mind." The 2 tired sheep didn't know how to calm their minds, so they asked the nightingale to show them. The bird looked around at their surroundings and asked the sheep to make themselves comfy in a nearby patch of clover. The sheep did so and settled down in the sweet-smelling clover. The nightingale perched on a small rock at their side. In a soft and gentle voice, the nightingale showed the sheep how to take some big, deep breaths and to slowly let them out. She told them to softly focus on their breaths and nothing else. The 2 sleepy sheep copied the kind bird. They took a big, deep breath in and slowly let it out. Big breath in, slowly let it out. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. 2 sleepy sheep closed their eyes and sighed happily. They felt so very calm and relaxed, and so very tired. Moments later, 1 sleepy sheep fell into a restful slumber with a peaceful smile on her face. The nightingale fell asleep too. The biggest sleepy sheep opened his eyes and gazed at the full moon and the twinkling stars. He thought about his soft, warm bed in the cosy corner of the farm. He loved his bed so very much. And now that he knew how to calm his mind, he knew he would be able to get a good night's sleep in his very favourite place. He decided he would return to his beloved bed and snuggle down under the covers, certain that he would easily fall asleep. There was something else he wanted to do too. Ever since he was a little lamb, he had always said, "Sweet dreams, good night," to his friends. But he hadn't done that on that moonlit night, and he wanted to put that right. He quietly stood up, careful not to disturb his sleeping friend and the nightingale. The big sheep moved closer to his sleeping friend and whispered, "Sweet dreams, good night." His heart filled with love at the restful smile on his sleeping friend's face. She looked so peaceful in her slumber. One sleepy sheep let out a sleepy yawn and started out on his journey back home, making sure to visit his sleeping friends on the way. One sleepy sheep, walking through the night, looking for his sleeping friends to wish them sweet dreams, good night. The sleepy sheep walked towards the river. He listened to the soothing sound of the water tumbling over rocks and lapping against the riverbank. He stopped next to his sleeping friend and the frog. He whispered to them, "Sweet dreams, good night." He smiled and continued on his way through the beautiful countryside. The stars glimmered and shimmered in the velvety night sky, and the full moon shone brightly. One sleepy sheep, walking through the night, looking for his sleeping friend to wish them sweet dreams, good night. He soon arrived at the tall hedgerows and walked quietly over to the sleeping sheep and the hedgehogs. They looked so snug and cosy beneath the branches of the bushes. The sheep whispered to them, "Sweet dreams, good night." He smiled and continued on his way through the beautiful countryside. He yawned and yawned again. The evening breeze gently rippled through his fur and caressed his softly smiling face. One sleepy sheep, walking through the night, looking for his sleeping friends to wish them sweet dreams, good night. Soon he arrived at the majestic oak tree where his friend and the squirrel were fast asleep and lost in delightful dreams. He moved a little closer to them and whispered gently, "Sweet dreams, good night." The sheep smiled and wondered what dreams they were dreaming. He turned away and continued walking through the beautiful countryside. The twilight melody of the countryside drifted around him in a comforting lullaby. One sleepy sheep, walking through the night, looking for his sleeping friends to wish them sweet dreams, good night. Soon he arrived at the cosy barn and went inside. He smiled at the sleeping cow and his friend. Both animals were snoring in perfect harmony. The big sheep whispered, "Sweet dreams, His friend and the cow continued to let out contented snores that echoed gently around the barn. The sleepy sheep left the barn and went on his way, walking through the beautiful countryside. The night air was scented with wildflowers and lavender. Trees rustled gently, and the soft snores coming from the barn stayed with him for a while. One sleepy sheep, walking through the night, looking for his sleeping friends to wish them sweet dreams, good night. Soon he made his way to the field of golden haystacks. He walked over to the ones where his friend and the field mice lay sleeping. They looked so very peaceful and happy. The sheep whispered gently to them, "Sweet dream, good night." He walked out of the field of haystacks and headed back towards the farm where his cosy bed was waiting for him. Onwards he walked. He heard the soft breeze whispering through the leaves. A friendly owl hooted softly from a nearby treetop. A family of crickets chirped cheerfully from the grass. The twilight tunes mingled together and created a soothing lullaby. The very sleepy sheep let out 7 sleepy yawns, one after the other. Soon he arrived back at the farm. He settled himself down in his cosy bed and snuggled under the cover. He thought about his sleeping friends and how much he loved them. He was glad they had found the perfect places to sleep that moonlit night, and he was glad he had found his too. He took some deep, calming breaths. Moments later, one sleepy sheep fell into a restful slumber with a peaceful smile on his face.